Hey y'all. Okay, so I'm going to actually, in a way, combine 9.4 and 9.5 because they are very similar. In 9.4, it'll say to find the sum, and in 9.5, it'll say to find the difference. What you're doing technically is the same. There's just, a slight difference in notation. In 9.4, an example of a 9.4 problem would look something like this. And an example of a 9.5 problem would look something like this. It's a little kind of all over the place. Let me get it closer together. An example of a 9.5 problem would look like this. Those are doing the exact same thing. 9.4 will say find the sum, and it'll be because it does have this plus sign in front of the -2. And 9.5, it'll say find the difference because the only thing it does have is the fact that that's a -2, but they are the exact same thing. The end part of both of them, I'll do a video over that probably after I teach. It will have you write it into an expression again where it'll tell you the sum of 2 plus 2 plus 2. So you'll write 2 plus 2 plus 2. And then in the difference one, it'll say the difference of, and you'll actually write it out and you'll solve it. And then some of the problems towards the end of both of the homeworks get a little crazy with parentheses and brackets. So first, I'm just going to do some simple examples of the rule you need to know when you're combining terms. It's just the way I say adding and subtracting, sum and difference. Instead of having it in two different sections, what we're doing is we're combining. They just happen to have different signs, or they could have the same signs. Like there's a rule for each. But the video for the hard problems and the word problems, I will do this afternoon. Okay, so I'm so sorry. Let's go ahead and write our rules. My first rule, okay, so y'all, this is technically combining terms, okay? Combining terms. This is sum and difference. Okay, so when you're combining terms, if signs are the same, why'd I do that? Signs are the same. What you do is you add and keep sign, okay? If signs are different, what you do is subtract and keep larger sign. I mean the larger number. You keep the whatever the larger number is, you keep its sign. Okay, so let's do an example of that. We'll do that one example that I started with, which was a -7 plus a -2. I only care about my values, the actual specific terms I'm looking at, which is a -7 and a -2. That negative and that 2 are together in parentheses. They are together. A negative sign next to a number, you keep those together. And what I get here is the signs are the same. That's the first rule. And what does that rule tell me to do? It tells me to add and keep the sign. So you add the two numbers. 7 and 2 make 9. Keep the sign. Now look at it, same way I always say, as money. If I have -$7 in my bank and I add more negative, I spend more money. I now go more into debt, basically. I had first -7, now I've spent $2 more. I'm now -9. So what I did was I added two negative numbers, which means I was able to just add them together and then keep the sign because I went more negative. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's do this one. Let's say we have -6 plus a -3. Those signs are the same. Add and keep. Oh, funny. I just had these two examples written down. I didn't know they both equal -9. Okay, what about an example? Let me go ahead. I have y'all's homework opened up. That way I can literally do problems that look exactly like the ones you do. Okay, say we have 5, and then plus, in parentheses, a -9. But thinking about my rules, are their signs the same or different? Well, my 5 is positive and my 9 is negative. So those are different. My rule tells me to subtract. Just look at the numerical values. 9 minus 5 is 4. Keep the sign of the larger. So subtract and keep larger sign. That might be a little bit more clear. So the larger sign, what I mean by that is what's the biggest number? What's the largest number? Just looking at the numerical values, I know that the number 9 is bigger than the number 5, and the number 9 is negative. So my 4 is going to be negative. A representation of this on a number line would be, say this is -10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, say right now, excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say right now I have $5 in the bank. Oh, that's still blue. I have $5 in the bank. And then I'm going to add a -9. So this is pretty much saying 5 minus 9, right? And if I minus 9 from 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I get to a -4. That's its representation on a number line. That could almost be ambiguous and not make that much sense and be confusing. That's why I truly believe these rules right here will make way more sense. If the signs are the same, add and keep. If the signs are different, subtract, keep the sign of the larger. Okay, so let's do another example real quick. Clicking through the homework. They have some additive inverses in there. There should be like 1 or 2 examples with decimals, so use your calculator. Let's actually end this video doing 1 to 2 kind of harder questions. If we have 16 plus, and then open your parentheses, -6 plus, open parentheses, -8, close your parentheses, close your bracket. If you see something like this, I need to remember my order of operations. I'm going to work from the inside of the parentheses and I'm going to go out. So what I notice first is this -6. Oh, that was supposed to be a highlighter. I'm not going to try to erase it, y'all, because it'll erase everything. I notice this -6 and this -8. So I have 16, and then I'm actually going to hold off on writing my sign. Let's see what happens here. -6 and a -8. Well, signs are the same, which says to add. 6 plus 8 is 14. Signs are the same. You add and keep. Keep the sign. Now, if you do 16 minus 14, signs are different. Subtract. Keep the sign of the larger. I was more in the positive area on the number line, and I subtracted less away from it, so my answer is still positive. Okay, let's do one more of those. Say we have a -5 plus sign bracket 12 plus parenthesis -7, close everything. Now let's look at this one. I notice inside of my parentheses, I need to evaluate this first. So what I have is a -5. I'm going to wait to write that plus sign. You can write it if you want. I'll go ahead and show you an example of that. I have my plus sign, right? Now let's look on the inside of the parentheses. If I do a 12 and a -7, I'm adding them together. Their signs are different. So what I do is subtract. And then if you subtract those two numbers, you get 5. Keep the sign of the larger. That would be my +12. And so it is a +5. Now right here, this is the additive inverse we learned earlier. -5 plus 5 gives us 0. Okay, so a few examples on the 9.4 homework, basically just combining terms. Thanks, y'all.